Hi guys, and welcome back to SYBO TV. I'm your host Adam, and I'm joined today by Pernille Ørum, who is currently the artist on the new Hit Girl comic that was released on February the 13th. It's a pleasure to have you, Pernille.
It's nice to be here.
But you used to work here at SYBO, I believe?
I did, yes, from the beginning almost.
How did you end up joining SYBO, and what did you do here?
Well, I joined SYBO because I'm a good friend of the creators of the company, Bodhi and Sylvester. They needed a 2D artist, so I started working, ended up doing character designs and being head of the 2D department. And
your 2D work is fantastic. I've actually been looking at your latest comic, which is Hit Girl, from the Kick-Ass franchise. In fact, we have it here. How did you feel when you were approached to work on this? How did that all come about? Did Kevin approach you, or?
Yeah, well, I've been fortunate enough to have developed a friendship with Kevin Smith over the last few years, and he wrote me just a text being like, I have this project, I think you would be perfect for it. Would you mind like looking into this comic I want you to make? It turned out to be a fun collaboration where my very animated, cute style mixed with ultra-violence.
That was a huge contrast, actually. Reading through, we were talking.
And that was also why he contacted me. He was like, if I get a guy who draws really violent stuff to draw this comic book, it's gonna look very dark. She's a teenage girl. Your way of drawing would be a perfect contrast to this. So that's why he sought me out. I was very nervous for it to come out, but it looks like people agree. It's like bubblegum candy and violence.
I mean, it looks incredible, and you're so right. The contrast between your style and what's actually going on is unexpected, and it's almost jarring. But I think that's really great because it really sells the points it's trying to make. Kevin, I think, also said before about if there was to be maybe a cinematic picture made of the comic, that he wouldn't want to direct it. That he'd rather give the role to a woman because it should be a story best told by a woman.
Definitely, for sure. It's a story that he needed to tell, but it's also hard for him to tell because he is a white male in the industry, and that's not his fault, but it is one of them where he's like, I need to collaborate with people who can tell it from a different point of view and tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
As you say, you had to your usual artwork is not as perhaps violent. So how did you find drawing and exploring this sort of new sort of style or these new kinds of drawing? So much fun. Yeah,
like a lot of the artwork that I put out is stuff that I really love, animation and feminine, but I also have a very big love for gore. The original Halloween, Friday the 13th, all those series, and like even though like the number 5 and number 6, which is really bad, I really still love those movies.
Yeah. So the comic is called The Silent Era. One of the things that struck me in the comic was that there's very little dialogue. So therefore your art takes center stage here in regards to telling the story. Did you feel a lot of pressure because of that?
Well, actually, it was the first comic book I've ever done. So when I was doing it, I didn't think about the fact that it didn't have any dialogue boxes. And I think I just went about it as if I were doing a storyboard for animation, which is what I've done before. So it's one of those where people now point out that it has no dialogue. It's like, oh yeah, that was a bit difficult, that's right.
And it's actually really easy to see what's going on in the story.
Thank you.
No, I mean, you've done a great job of portraying not only what's happening, but the characters' emotions and reactions to what's going on, and making that flow really well. And that happening without a script almost is, I would imagine, very difficult to do. So it's a great job.
I'm lucky Kevin writes a really good script. He keeps saying that he's not visual, and maybe he just writes in a way where the visual comes to you, but he did describe every panel. But it's not with camera angles or stuff like that. It's more, we see Hit Girl, she's jumping through the air, guns are blazing.
So you've had published two books before, Blush and Coral, and also Mermaids in May, so 3 books actually. Blush and Coral were crowdfunded.
Yes.
And they both achieved their crowdfunding in less than an hour of beginning the crowdfunding campaigns, which is insane and amazing. So how did you find that? Was it like, you started the crowdfund campaign up and you just went for coffee and you came back and oh my goodness, it's done?
Basically, yeah.
Amazing.
The second one I was more prepared, but the first one I remember it was like, I want to have a book of my drawings. That was basically the thing. I want to have a physical thing because everything was done digitally. So I just set like a price that I needed to get that done and achieve that, and if anybody was interested. And I remember sitting there ready to push the button. I was like, oh, I'm going to be so sad if I don't make the fonts. So I remember lowering the fonts a little bit, be like, I can, you know, pay the last part.
Yeah.
You know, I just want this book made. And then I published it, and I, you know, left the computer and went out and met up with my boyfriend. And when we sat down, it was funded. The funny thing about Kickstarter is that, of course, like a lot of money come out, but all the money goes back into producing the books,
right,
and shipping the books. Yeah. I remember when I did the first one, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I didn't make any money. It was so much work. Shipping is so hard. And then after 2 years, I was like, I think I'm gonna get another book. And now it's been 2 years, and I'm like, thinking about doing another one. Like, it's one of those, you know, you just need to forget about it. Yeah. And then you start doing it again.
Conventions. I love conventions. We're going to talk about conventions. So when was your first convention?
My first convention was CTN 4 years ago. I had no idea what it was. I just knew all my heroes went there. So I flew to LA with a friend and had a table, tried it out, fell absolutely in love with it. It's a cool experience when you meet your hero and you're like, you're Pernille, aren't you? And you develop a friendship, and I've gained a lot of work from it. I can highly recommend anybody who wants to work in the field to go to conventions. I also go to the conventions to socialize as well. And do you find that it wears you out a bit? Because it's quite especially if you stay the whole weekend, it's quite a long experience that you have to go I've never been so tired in my life as you are. Whenever somebody comes over and likes your stuff, so you're smiling all the time. You have this kind of constant smile, and then when it comes around Monday morning, your convention's finished, Monday morning, your face is stuck like this. I was like,
I once cosplayed Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean. Obviously at Comic Cons and things you get, you know, celebrities around. I remember standing in the queue for a canteen to get a sandwich, and there was this little commotion, this little crowd, and I look over, it was the guy who played R2-D2 in the old Star Wars films. And I was a huge Star Wars fan. I had to go over and say hello, so dressed full on Jack Sparrow, I went over and started shaking his hand. Hey, how's it going? He was in a wheelchair, by the way, but he didn't let go of my hand, and he came flying out of the wheelchair and hit the floor with a sound. And of course the little crowd around me were like, and so Jack Sparrow floored R2-D2, and I obviously tried to help him up and say, I'm so sorry, most embarrassing moment of my life ever, super awkward, and then Jack Sparrow obviously did his little runaway, and that
well,
very quickly.
You were disguised.
I was disguised, so nobody knew it was me.
When you walk people over in a wheelchair, you want to be disguised.
Yeah, I mean, he was okay, but I think it's just the embarrassment of, you know, taking out your hero in a way that you really didn't want to.
For sure. That's always when you do.
Yeah, it was just so there you go, a little story for you. Did you manage to sneak any Easter eggs into the Hit Girl comic?
Yeah, actually, I put a poster of one of my books in the comic book. Amazing. Of my book Coral. Yeah.
I must have missed that one. I'll have to go back and
find
it. Yeah. So as you're working, what's kind of your process from start to finish on a project, perhaps like this?
Well, it varies. Like, this is the first comic book I've done. Normally, my job is to be a character designer. But for this, I had the script, I printed it out, and then I just started layouting the whole book very quickly. It took me like half a day or a day to go in and break down the script pages into a book, and just placing the cameras and characters really roughly and figuring out what I wanted to do. And then I just started from page 1, and then I had to do 1 page a day. It's very tedious and strict. Like, when people say, oh, it must be fun to draw, it is, but it's also very, you know, hard work.
If there was anyone looking at your art, or any art, I guess, who was interested in getting into drawing or painting, or what would be your advice for them to get started?
It's one of those boring ones. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, and work hard.
Yeah.
The place where I really like leveled up and reached the point where I could actually work with larger companies was when I started doing drawing challenges online, and I drew a thing every day that somebody else decided for me, so I couldn't do the same drawing. And it just became a thing, like working out. In the beginning it was really hard and tedious, but it became easier and easier. And now I just, if I haven't drawn for 3 days, like my mood changes, I need to keep doing it. And
I guess it's like everything in life, right?
Yeah, it's like running. Yeah. I can't run at all. But everybody who's running keeps telling me, you know, as soon as you reach that point, it's like addictive.
Have you ever found a point where you know, you hit a wall where you're like, I really want to stop doing this now. I'm bored of this.
Oh, all the time.
But you fight through it, right?
Yeah. Like, for instance, December, I was not inspired. I didn't like drawing. And it can be stupid things. I had a day where I just looked at colors, and all of a sudden, I just sort of started seeing images of colors, and I found my inspiration back. And I think it was because I was working in black and white for a long time on this comic. So I didn't work with colors, and all of a sudden I felt something new. And it happens all the time, and you just have to go out and find your inspiration, and it can be anything. You
actually lived in America at one point.
Yeah.
And you went to a high school in America. What was it like being a Danish teenager growing up in America, and what was that like for you? One of the weirdest things is, in Denmark here, Beverly Hills 90210, the TV show, is big. It's from the 90s. We love it. I went over there and I kept making comparisons where it's like, oh my God, this is like 90210. Yeah. And they're like, what? They never heard of the show because they don't have the reruns. I really, really liked it. I was fortunate enough that the high school that I went to had a great art program. So is that like your first memory of getting into art, or did you begin before that? No, I've always drawn, but it's the first, I remember when I went there, I was like, I want to be an animator, I want to work in comics, I want to do basically what I'm doing now. Yeah. But when I was there, my eyes really opened for fine arts. It really enriched the way I look at every aspect of like visual. Have you found that your experiences of other cultures and other lands and locations have inspired your art in any way? Yeah, for sure. My fiance goes to Africa all the time, Nairobi to be exact, and Tanzania. And whenever I go there with him, I can see my color palette just switch. It becomes like more warm colors. I went to Japan and my colors got more, hot pink and saturated, more contrasty. So I definitely color is really my thing. That's what I love and get inspired by. And I always have like a whole picture series of I take pictures of everything that I see color-wise that I use for inspiration. If you could be a superhero yourself, what superpower would you have? Oh, which power you want? Which power would you want to have? Like, I've had this game with my friends so many times. This is a tough question. It is. My favorite superhero is Spider-Man. Just the setup of the character and the vulnerability of it. And I also love his movements. He's absolutely my favorite. I just want the whole Spider-Man package, I think. So you would be Spider-Woman, I guess. Well, I can take the Spider-Gwen then. Okay. Yeah. She has a cool costume too. I love her costume. Have you ever been to Venice, Italy? No. Would you like to go to Venice, Italy? I would love to go to Venice. Not in the real world, disclaimer, but in the virtual world. Yeah. So in Subway Surfers, we thought we would love to challenge you to see how far you can get in one run of Subway Surfers. Are you up for it? Sure. Oh yeah. Let's set it up. This is not going to take long. I want to play the Venice character. That's him. I know, I designed him. I feel like an idiot. So off we go. Oh, I haven't played this in a long time. This is going to be one of those situations. It's like, oh, I haven't played much. I haven't played in a long time. And then 5 hours later, we're still running. Like, you're doing pretty good though. You're doing better than I did when I first played. Well, I think I used to play it on the phone, so this year is like much easier on the iPad. And there you go, guys. Tips and tricks for Subway. Yes. Easier on the iPad. This is how you do. So you're going to go on our scoreboard, and obviously whatever score you get, you're going to be the first one on our scoreboard, which means you're going to be number one. Yeah! Oh, no. There we go. There you go. Great job. Okay, thanks. So the score was 83,310. That's going on the scoreboard. Fantastic. As Marco in Venice. With my character. With your character, which you designed. Yes. So you have drawn and designed some characters for the Subway game. Did you design Frank? No, Frank is weird. I just wanted to get your artist's professional opinion. We'll show my one first, I think. So if you guys have seen our previous episode, Alex and I actually made Frank masks from the series, and this is my attempt. Nice. This is my attempt at Frank. Okay. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. Yeah. Out of 10, what score would you give that? I will give it an 8 or a 9. 8 or 9 out of 10. All right, guys. Yeah, that's good. Okay, 8 or 9 out of 10. I'll roll with that. This is Alex's rendition of Frank. Yeah. So here it is. I like it. Yeah? Yeah. It has the creep factor. It has the creep factor. Yes. That's true. So what would you give that out? Can I give 2 scores? So the first one will be like
level how it is compared to yours, I would probably give it like a 4. But for creativity, it's definitely a 9.5.
I think mine wins.
Yeah.
I think that's the crux of it. So Pernille, thank you so much for being with us and chatting with us today. It's been amazing. And the Hit Girl comics are out now. They came out in the previous months. We got one in February, March, April and May. So go and get yours at your local comic book store right now. And they are for adult readers. It's very R-rated comics.
Yeah, it's very graphic.
Yeah, so not for children, guys. Thank you so much for being with us and coming to talk.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you guys next time on SYBO TV.